man, look, I was recommended this video by either Mikey or Aaron. I don't know which one it was, but they were on their account and they said, watch this video. It's I'm Pretty Sure Recycling Isn't Real by David Achu. Let's get it.
Real quick, before we start, you're gonna have a number of questions while watching this video, and 9 times out of 10, the answer to that question is either going to be technically or money. So I'm just gonna reuse this clip every time that comes up. So let's get into it. But again, remember, it's always technically or money. Hello. I'm wearing a lab coat that I stole from my sister who's a nurse, which explains why it's one size too small. The reason I'm pretending to look scientifically qualified is because a few weeks ago, I set out to make a simple video about the history of reducing, reusing, and recycling. But the more reports I read, videos I watched, and read yarn I purchased, the more I realized this is a deeply complicated issue. But surely the title is clickbait. I mean, recycling obviously exists, right? Technically? But the reason it's such a mess is due to the very material that popularized recycling in the first place.
Plastic.
Plastic is so interesting for all the wrong reasons. I'm sure I don't need to tell you that plastic waste is a problem, but the way we got here and the reason you view it the way you do is the direct result of decades of misleading claims, unrealistic promises, and propaganda from big plastic. That's a real thing. I'm telling you right now.
Big plastic is crazy though.
This one's gonna be a bummer.
A brief history of plastic. Talk to me.
I've never liked chemistry because it's the one science you can't see, and because I have the reasoning ability of a 12-year-old boy, if I can't see a thing, I tend to believe it's not real. We all know that plastic is made from oil, yet none of us know how. Prior to writing this, I couldn't even imagine how that works. As far as I can understand, when you extract oil from the ground and you refine it, the product that you're looking for is called methane. It's the primary gas that your stoves use. We burn it.
I was literally watching a Criminal Minds video. I was watching the show earlier about how the guy was trying to use the methane to extract the sense of a natural woman. He was coming for this shit. So methane is used in a lot of shit. It's fake. It was fake because it's Criminal Minds and he was a serial. But methane really is like when Spencer got to talking about methanol and shit like that, it's really used in a lot of shit.
The product that you're looking for is called methane. It's the primary gas that your stoves use. We burn it for like energy and stuff. It's really valuable. But one thing you get when trying to get methane is its less popular brother, ethane. And this is a byproduct of the process. Ethane is gonna be there whether you like it or not. And for a while, that's just the way that ethane was seen. It's just one of the things that you get when you're digging up oil. But in the late 1800s, it was discovered that you could use it to make this weird substance. It was this white, waxy material discovered by German chemist Hans von Pechmann. His colleagues named it polymethylene, also known as polyethylene, also known as plastic. Now, this discovery was an accident, and at the time, there wasn't really much you could do with it commercially. But in 1933, British company Imperial Chemical Industries, great name, accidentally discovered a way to synthesize this industrially. And the result was a material unlike the world had ever seen. Polyethylene was everything you wanted it to be. It was strong, it was lightweight, it was flexible, it was heat resistant, and most importantly, it was cheap. It might not seem impressive today, but at the time, plastic was viewed like the material of the gods. It could be clear like glass, but it didn't break when you dropped it. It was lighter than metal, less flammable than wood, sturdier than paper. You could color it.
I can see how a nigga thinks this is the holy grail. This is the wheel. This is the wheel, essentially. You know what I'm saying?
Make it look like any material you wanted. It was easier to clean. It was easier to transport. It was cheap. It was durable. And
inexpensive, colorful plastics. The best buy. Ooh. Plastic salad bowl. Plastic tablecloths. Plastic pipes. Nigga. Hold on. They was really selling the fuck out of this plastic. Okay.
Thanks to injection molding, it was easy to mass produce on a large scale. This material could...
The best things in life come from What the fuck? This is not a good ad right here. This is a terrible ad.
Could be used for everything. And due to metal shortage in World War II, the manufacturing of plastic became really big in the 40s. And since it was already in high production, when the war ended, there was an explosion of new plastic products to choose from.
Plastics take their rightful place in a world at peace. The future will bring plastic fabrics, wondrously fine, yet
plastic fabrics? Oh no, they was really doing whatever.
Resistant to wear, wrinkles, and stains.
Saran wrap, squeeze bottles, Tupperware, shoes, dolls, garbage bag, plates, bras. People loved plastic, but manufacturers loved it even more. Why? Money. Remember, plastic comes from ethane, and ethane is really cheap. In fact, there's too much of it. Because if you're a fossil fuel company, you want methane. But if you're getting methane, you're also getting ethane. But it's not just that you don't...
So you can make some more money on the side because you already are getting it. Even though you're not trying, you're already getting it. So you might as well. Hold on.
don't want ethane. Nowadays, you literally have to find a way to get rid of it. You can't really mix it with the methane. You can't just release it out into the atmosphere. There's only so much of it you can legally burn. And if you don't find a way to get rid of this stuff, it becomes a big problem for production.
A lot of governments, including the US government, control.
Wait. Whoa.
It becomes a big problem for production.
A lot of
There's an actual reason you can't recycle plastic. Hold on.
governments, including the US government, control how much you can flare. So it might be that you are producing so much ethane that you cannot flare it and you cannot send it down the pipeline. And if you can't sell it, you have to shut down the well. They hate shutting down the well. If there's still methane down there, if there's still oil down there, that's money in the ground. So it doesn't matter if you're making money on the ethane. You just need someone to take it away from you.
And plastic just makes sense. So from the 50s onwards, pretty much anything you could dream of was being made of the wonder material. The possibilities were endless. And the best part is that it would last forever because plastics basically last forever. That will come up again later. I'm not here to say that all plastic is bad at all times. I'm coming to appreciate that plastic does have a place in society. For example, before the invention of single-use plastic-filled diapers, children used to wear cloth diapers that were meant to be washed and reused.
Oh,
it's okay.
God.
We don't have to go back to that one. The problem is how much plastic is made. So what were we gonna do with all this trash? I would love to answer that question, but I do have to do a commercial for a brand real quick. Why would he just interrupt the video like that? Plastic is bad for the environment at almost every stage of its lifetime. From the fossil fuel extraction needed to make the plastic, to the greenhouse gas emissions that come from when you actually produce the plastic, to the disposal of plastic, a decent portion of which is just burned afterwards, which also contributes to greenhouse gas emissions. And probably the most annoying part of plastics, especially in the 60s and 70s, is that people would just throw them anywhere. It was in parks, roads, farmlands, lakes, rivers. Plastic also ends up in our oceans, which is bad because, as we all know, fish are dumb. And we'll confuse small pieces of plastic floating around as prey, and then they'll eat it. And then we'll eat it when we eat the fish. Did you know that the average American eats about
whoa.
prey, and then they'll eat it. And then we'll
I love microplastics in my
eat it when we eat the fish. Did you know that the
It took you approximately 1 week to eat this credit card. What the
average
fuck?
American eats about a credit card's worth of plastic every year? That's why
Every week? What the fuck?
I don't order seafood. It eats through my wallet. I'm doing great today. But the planet is a big place. I don't get why we can't just find somewhere to put it.
We have this one planet. We only have so many places that we could put our waste.
I can think of 3 different places we can put our trash right now.
You can't put it in the ocean. Look what happened.
Sure, obviously.
You can't put it on top of a mountain.
We can't?
They've even tried to put it into a volcano.
I didn't even think of that. We can't?
We have to come up with a better plan.
Wait, why can't we put it in a volcano? Why can't we put it in a volcano?
So we had way too much plastic trash. What could we do to fix the problem? Well, we could have cut down on plastic production, which would have solved the problem at the source. No, we're never gonna do that. How about we come up with a slogan instead?
Oh yeah, we're not gonna cut the production. Why would they do that? That's less money. Bro, capitalism. Money. Why would we you know what I'm saying?
If you grew up in America after the 80s, you probably grew up learning about the 3 R's. Especially in the 90s and the 2000s, messaging about the benefits of reducing, reusing, and recycling was everywhere.
It's worth it.
It is worth it.
It was on posters, commercials, children's television. They made jingles about it. They talked about it in science class. Did you know that Schoolhouse Rock forced Mitchell Musso to make a De La Soul parody song about it? Obviously, I can't play the whole thing here because Disney will have my head on a pike, but I will play a snippet shortly. However, before I do, I would like to read the lyrics to the first verse because it's written like a conspiracy theorist that's trying to make a connection that simply isn't there. 3. It's a magic number. Yes, it is. It's the magic number. Because 2 times 3 is 6, and 3 times 6 is 18. And the 18th letter in the alphabet is R. We got 3 R's we're gonna talk about today. Go listen to this song immediately after this video. I assure you, it sounds worse when you sing it.
I remember that. Oh my god. Oh my god, I remember that fucking song. Oh, fuck all the way off. Wow. Oh my god.
This song had to have been written in 45 seconds. Recycling ads made it seem like you were fighting for world peace every time you threw a bottle away. I'm being responsible.
Literally.
I'm basically a hero. We treat recycling as if everyone who does it is single-handedly preventing a plastic straw from ending up in a sea turtle's nose. You did it, man! We won! But that slogan is written the way it is for a reason. It's written in order of importance. If you want to help the environment, by far the single best thing you can do is reduce the amount of trash you make. If you don't want the planet to be filled with waste, don't make the waste in the first place. Beyond that, the next best thing you can do is to reuse the waste that you create. And I'm not talking about that 5-minute craft reuse. I turn these bottle caps into jewelry. I'm not doing that. I'm a grown man. I don't just own a glue gun. It's kind of crazy how underrated reusing things is. We'll talk about this more later, but Americans have been taught to believe that reusing things is for poor people. Historically, though, every culture...
Literally, bro... that's why bro, chat, we are our own demise, bro.
And every people have always reused everything they can.
So, in thinking about ancient Greek sculptors, their favorite material to use was bronze. And the reason that we only have a few of these left, they got melted down to make implements of war. Egyptian kings would wait for previous monuments to maybe fall into a little bit of disrepair, and they would knock them down, and they would use those pieces to build their own monuments. Sometimes the Romans would take their sculptures, and they would recarve them into the sculptures of later emperors.
If you grew up in a melanated household, then you know that just because a container that used to hold food is now empty, it does not mean its life is over. I'll be the first to admit this.
Of course, the fucking the cookie shit. I've never opened a can of those cookies and there were cookies actually in there. It was always sewing kits. The butter, only at one point ever was there butter in there. Now it's used to hold the spaghetti. That big ass tub of fucking butter that we used to have. Now it's used to hold the spaghetti. Like, you reuse the fuck out of that.
Used to be embarrassed when we'd have people over and I'd have to explain to them that we used the empty Greek yogurt containers from Costco as cups. Well, I wasn't embarrassed at first. It wasn't until somebody who wasn't in my family.
Nigga, shit, I was using the Chinese, not the Greek containers, but the Chinese containers where you get the soup in, the wonton soup. Oh yeah, nigga, that is a Kool-Aid cup. Fuck is you talking about? That's a Kool-Aid cup now. Need that. Fuck is you talking about?
They came to my home, saw what was happening, explained to me that their family doesn't do this, that it immediately clicked, yeah, of course nobody else does this. This looks weird. But looking back, objectively, it shouldn't be viewed as weird because we used that container 50 times longer than it was intended to be used. We saved them from going into a landfill prematurely. That is, of course, until I put it in the microwave and it became immediately unusable because, of course, it was. It was a Greek yogurt plastic container. It can't handle that heat. But sometimes, despite your best efforts, you end up with plastic that you just don't know what else to do with. Then, and only then, is when the last R comes in. Recycling. The idea that some company or organization could take your trash and turn it into anything your heart desires. It's the most magical of the 3 R's. Magical in the sense that it's not real. That isn't to say recycling doesn't work for anything. There are actually a number of materials that recycle rather well. Aluminum, for example, is considered infinitely recyclable, meaning you can recycle it over and over and over again and it won't break down in quality. In fact, of all aluminum that has ever been produced, 75% of it is still in circulation today. Now, you compare that to plastic that actually breaks down every time you recycle it. And of all the plastic that's ever been produced, 70% of it has been discarded. In fact,
oh wow.
Generous estimates say that only 10% of all plastic has ever been recycled once, and only 1% ever gets recycled twice. I think the main thing that makes recycling super difficult is that it doesn't arrive at the facility in perfect condition, organized by color and material. It comes in one gray blob, and there is almost surely animal and or human feces in the mix. And even the stuff that isn't fecal matter, a good portion of those materials shouldn't be in that pile. Recycling rules get so confusing because, first of all, you need to know what type of plastic it is because not all plastics can even be recycled. Second, did you know you have to clean the plastic before you put it in the bin? Some packaging materials, even if
what? I wasn't told this shit.
If it has the recycling symbol on the front, some recycling plants can't accept it. And I would love to sit here and tell you all the ins and outs of what can and can't be recycled. I really wanted to make it work. I come up with a bit where I was gonna get a scroll and be like, hear ye, hear ye. I can't do that because recycling rules change everywhere. Everywhere you go, there's a new set of instructions. The ones in my area are different from the ones in your area, and the next guy's area, and the next guy.
You remember when they used to allow you to recycle those fucking cans and then pay you for it? They don't even do that shit anymore. Niggas used to get like mad. They still do. I haven't seen that shit in years. The last time I seen that shit, I was probably like 15.
And despite all that effort, most plastics just end up in a landfill or being burned in an incinerator. So how did we come up with such an ineffective system? Well, to understand that, you're gonna have to...
Imagine you're an old white man, businessman from the 50s. Talk to me.
So you're pretending you're this businessman from the 50s and you work in the plastic industry, and your entire job is just to make money. You know, one of the reasons life sucks now is because you can't own anything anymore because everything is a subscription. Sure, I could make some money selling you something once, but I could make more money if I sold it to you once a month for the rest of your life. But how am I gonna get you to buy more plastic? I just spent all this money advertising how durable it is and how it basically lasts forever. People know you don't need any more plastic. What am I supposed to...
Talk to me.
What if I just told you the opposite? Imagine you're in a room with the most boring old white men that you can think of, and then the main old white guy is in the center, and he's like, okay guys, if we want to make money, we have to convince the public to throw away the plastic. And everybody was like, what's this guy talking about? And the main guy is still up front. He's all like, you guys, listen. Glass and metal are expensive and heavy and breakable, but plastic is made of oil, so obviously it costs basically nothing. And then one guy raises his hand, and he's like, wait, I thought oil was basically like black gold, and every country on earth is fighting for it literally all the time. And the main guy's like, shut up, it's not important. Nobody knows how both those things are true. This is just the way the world works. It's light, it's cheap, and we have more than enough to sell. If we can just convince them to throw away the plastic stuff they already have, I promise you we will all make so...
Oh my God. Oh my fucking God. It's like I had a fucking brain blast. That's actually smart. And that's, bro, convince them to throw away the plastic. Like, hey, send us the plastic so we can reuse it. When in reality, they're not reusing it. They're lying. But it's convincing you to not use it for a while. Like, to not, they're convincing you to not reuse it so they can sell it to you again. Because if you're reusing it, you probably won't need to buy that container. Say you buy a container and you're reusing it, you're not ever really getting it again. They're not recycling. Only 10% of all plastic ever made is even recycled. So they're just, oh my God. It's just a big ass fucking lie.
If we can just convince them to throw away the plastic stuff they already have, I promise you we will all make so much money. And remember, that's your job. That scenario wasn't really an exaggeration. At a 1956 annual conference for the plastics industry, Lloyd Stouffer, an editor of a trade magazine, literally told plastic executives their future is in the trash can. But there was a problem. This was the 50s. These people lived through the Great Depression, where they used dresser drawers as baby cribs, and they made the most insane recipes with any food they could find. You know that one guy on TikTok from 3 years ago who used to make all those recipes from the 30s? That was depression food, not the feeling, the time period. Although you may confuse it to be the same thing because they couldn't afford fruit, so when they made apple pies, it wasn't with apples, it was with crackers and water. This era of Americans was not used to the idea that you buy something, use it one time, and immediately get another.
Throw it away.
That would be like if I invited you over for dinner and we were eating off glass plates, and at the end of the night you asked me if I want you to put your plate in the sink, and I just told you, nah, just throw it away.
Out.
What do you
Oh my fucking gosh. Wow.
talking about? And again, you were just telling the public how plastic is basically indestructible. So why would they just want to get rid of it? So the plastic industry had to make new ads that were basically like,
okay, forget everything we just said about plastic, okay? It's not that great. It's cheap, and we have an endless supply of it. So after you use it, just throw it out, okay? If you eat off of it, if you drink out of it, if you look at it too hard, just throw it out. It's fine.
but isn't that kind of wasteful?
Come on, man. All the cool kids are doing it.
For decades, Americans had a make it do or do without mentality. Our new throwaway culture fell in love with single-use plastics and didn't worry about the consequences.
Being disposable, there are no empties to collect. Vinyl and asbestos on the floor.
In fresh sun, sea, and sky colors.
So people started throwing stuff away.
Wow.
Everywhere. It was too much stuff. Littering was now becoming a bigger problem following the rise of single-use plastics, which combined with other environmental concerns led to one of the biggest environmental movements in modern history.
This is a CBS News special. Earth Day.
A day set aside for a nationwide outpouring of mankind seeking its own survival.
April 22nd, 1970 was the world's first Earth Day. A time for people in some of the most confusing pieces of attire and hairstyles that the human race had ever seen up to that point in their history, gathered together to discuss issues hurting
Terrible fits. Terrible fits. What the fuck is that?
attire and hairstyles that the human race had ever seen up to that point in their history.
What the fuck? Oh yeah, y'all was just doing whatever in the 70s, bro. Y'all, boy, y'all was just doing what the fuck ever you wanted. What the fuck is this fit?
gathered together to discuss issues hurting the environment. And of the many issues, one of the issues on the docket was plastic waste. In fact, you start to hear talk that maybe plastic should be banned altogether. But again, you're a businessman in the plastics industry. If your product gets banned, you can't make any more money. That's your one job.
Literally.
You're blowing this. But you, as a businessman, maybe you take a second to realize maybe enough's enough. Your decisions have negatively impacted the planet. You've made more money than you could ever hope to spend.
No, bro, they're never like this. Nigga, they're never like this. Maybe what I'm doing on Earth isn't good. I'm negatively impacted. No, fuck that. That's why we have right now the road to trillionaires. Niggas is trying to be like, you can never spend $1 trillion as one singular person. You can buy literally one of everything and not spend $1 trillion. Like, this shit don't make no sense, bro.
In your lifetime, maybe it's time that the plastics industry goes to rest. You retire. Maybe spend more time with your wife and the kids. Maybe this is a good thing after all. Maybe it's time to call it quits and let the packaging industry go back to its more sustainable practices. I'm kidding, it's time to plot. And what do we do every time we need the public to change their opinion immediately for our own benefit? Advertising.
Oh shit, he had to mute this. I know you fucking lying. That is a goddamn white man. That is a motherfucking white man. Okay. Oh, wow. They were just doing anything.
First off, this man is Italian. Secondly,
I thank you. Like you're not a native man. That is not a native man. What the fuck are we doing? What the fuck? That is not a native man. Oh, hell no. Hell to the fuck no. Fuck no.
Although this ad may look like it was paid for by some environmental activist group, it was actually produced by Keep America Beautiful, an organization started by the packaging industry like Coca-Cola and Dixie Cups. You know, the people who made the trash.
Literally.
This ad wasn't to stop litter. It was to make it abundantly clear that this littering thing, that's your fault. But aren't you guys the ones that got an entire generation of Americans to start acting like this in the first place? Don't change the subject. You made that Italian man in an almost surely offensive garb cry. Look at what you did. That's a great first step. But if you really want the people to get off your back about a problem, you have to promise them a solution. Give them something to believe in. And so essentially what happened was the equivalent of, I'm sorry guys, this is getting out of hand. The city's gonna have to ban the plastic. No, wait. Okay, we'll fix it. Jeez.
A growing backlash was threatening the
plastic industry used to use recycling to fend off bans.
Future of plastic.
So it was up to us in the plastics industry to solve this problem so that they could continue to package their products in plastic.
To appease government officials, the industry funded a local recycling pilot project.
The industry attitude was, we'll set this up and get it going, but if the public wants it, they are going to have to pay for it.
So they invested millions into bringing.
Yo, what? Yo, what? Yo, there's such sacks of shit, bro. Yeah, we created this problem and we'll introduce a problem, but we're not gonna fund this shit at all. The American people who we're already selling this bullshit to is going to have to fund it. What? Yo, no, bro. No way.
Recycling into the mainstream. But could that even work? Technically, the process of turning used plastic into new plastic is physically possible. The issue is when you have to do it with millions of pounds of plastic. Could this system work at scale? Technically, no, the answer to that one's just no. According to NPR and a paper from the Center for Climate Integrity, internal plastic industry documents from the late 60s and early 70s gave a sterling recommendation of the recycling process, using face-strengthening words such as costly, we have serious doubt that it can ever be made viable on an economic basis and virtually hopeless. The plastics industry knew from the very beginning this was never gonna work, and they did it anyway. Why? Money. Here's the thing, it doesn't actually need to work. It just needs to look like it works. If it'll get the hippies to shut up, sure, we can paint some trash cans blue and put some arrows on it and maybe blow a few mil building some recycling centers, and we'll run a few ads about it. Is it gonna cost us? Yeah, but I mean, it's a lot cheaper than having our entire industry banned or coming up with a solution that would actually work. If someone can prove me wrong, I would welcome you to do so in the comment section. But as far as I can tell, the entire idea of recycling is basically just theater, and you can see it everywhere. For example, a lot of people think that all plastics are recyclable, but they're not. Some types of plastics, no matter what you do, can
the fact that all plastics are not recyclable is what it should have been a red flag there. When I remember I went to go I was taught when I was taught about recycling, I went to go throw some plastic in the recycle, and it was like, yeah, that one's not recycled. I'm like, isn't it all plastic? Isn't it all cardboard? Isn't it all? Yeah, but this one's not this one. What? And that's when niggas should have known, like, yeah, this really don't make no fucking sense.
Never be recycled. But you wouldn't know just by looking at it. That wasn't until, out of the kindness of their hearts, a lobbying and trade group known as the Society of the Plastics Industry, a loving organization with a not at all nefarious sounding name, proposed a solution to identify which plastics can and can't be recycled. Okay, we've heard there's been a little bit of confusion as to what you can put in the bin, so today we're proposing a new symbol that we're gonna put on all the plastic products so everybody knows exactly what can and can't be recycled. Okay, that actually sounds pretty good. No, that's not cool. No! Is there a problem, sir? That looks exactly like the recycling symbol. How dare you? My work is completely original. It's in a triangle shape. I didn't know anybody could own a shape. It has a chasing arrows. My arrows are slimmer.
Bro.
Yeah, but if you squint and look at them both.
To this day, I don't know what the fuck none of these mean. This is on the bottle, but like you can't. Where is it? It's on the cap. The one with the number 2 on it is on the cap. Like you can't really see it. One with the number 2. What the fuck does it even mean? They don't tell you what the fuck it means. They're just like, oh yeah, this one's not that one. Well, what the fuck is it? I don't know.
Oh, they pretty much look exactly. Yeah, but mine has numbers in it. You notice that, Einstein? You're so good at pointing things out. You notice that? You know they look the same. Why would you make them look exactly the same? Money. This is the resin identification code. It was invented by Society of the Plastics Industry in 1988. On paper, its purpose is to identify what kind of plastic.
Polyethylene. Okay. Soda, water, milk jugs, detergent, recycled products. What the fuck is the I'm so confused. You're pissing me off. You're pissing me off.
Is made out of. Each type getting a different number. As far as I know, there are 7 RIC numbers, and pretty much only 1 and 2 are widely considered recyclable. But if you didn't know that, because why would you just casually know that?
Exactly.
Wouldn't you just assume that this means that the thing is recyclable and you
literally
put it in the bin and you think recycling is working? The plastics industry lobbied 40 states to get the RIC symbol to look like this. As long as you think it's working, it doesn't matter if it actually is. That's the whole name of the game.
Shit.
But why though? What specifically about recycling is so impossible to get right? Fun fact, when you look up Society of the Plastics Industry on YouTube, one of the first search results is a promo they just released called Recycling is Real. Is it though?
Wow. They're trying to stay on top of this. Recycling is like Helen Keller. It's not real. Thank you. Holy. Talk that talk, nigga. You can't convince me that motherfucker flew a plane. You can't convince me she was that spaghetti. Get the fuck out of here, bro. Fuck out of here. It's not real, bro. It's a propaganda, bro.
Because there's no way she flew a plane. Do you see my point? Like,
literally.
You know what I'm saying? Helen can't do either, and you mean to tell me she was navigating the skies? Random question. Would you say you have a decent idea of how a toilet works? I feel like most people would say yes.
For sure.
It's a toilet, you know? You push a thing, water comes out. Seems pretty simple. Okay, cool. Here are all the parts. Build a toilet. I saw somebody say this as a good example of showing that people don't really know how most things work. Even things that seem relatively simple. You put all the pieces in front of them. The average person doesn't understand how a lot of things work. With that being said, do you feel you have a good idea idea of how recycling works? I'll
Hell
be honest,
no.
I thought you just melted it and then shaped it again.
Literally.
But the process has like 17,000 steps. Because you can't just put all the plastics into one big vat and melt it down. They all have different properties and different melting temperatures. If you did that, you would just end up with a bunch of useless goop. So first you have to create recycling centers and a recycling program for a given area. Then you need to inform the people about what can and cannot go into the recycling bin, which is pretty much a useless step because no matter what you do, people are going to put anything they want in the bin.
Very surprised what people think is recyclable.
You name it, eventually it'll be found in it.
A pool table.
Big propane tanks.
Needles.
A neck brace.
We've had guns, ammunition, fireworks, sparklers.
I had a live snake.
After you pick it up, you have to do your best to separate the non-recyclables from the rest of the mix, and you have to clean them and treat them and process them. All of that just to get recycled plastic, a material that is less durable and more expensive than virgin plastic. From an economic and practical standpoint, this process makes almost no sense. You could sit there and say,
What could you even do with recycled plastic if it's not as shapeable and durable as, like, what the fuck could you even do with it?
We should do this for the good of the planet. Unless you're gonna do it or you're gonna fork up the cash to get somebody else to, it's not getting done. As Vidyamani said when speaking about just the separation process, unless someone's paying for it, the plastic's going to the landfill. So you may be wondering, surely there was a point in time when recycling kind of worked at least a little bit? Technically? Yes. Seeing the monstrous problem before them, the best and brightest American minds of that generation came up with a solution that, at least from an economic standpoint, was viable. Describing it with the gravitas it deserves, it was the equivalent of... There we go, yep.
Literally. Those random ass hills that you see, they're not natural hills. It's a bunch of trash with grass on top of it. Literally.
You're okay, it's okay. We just gave all our trash to China. I'm sorry, how does this work? It's simple. We pick up the recyclables, put them on trucks, bring them to recycling centers, they'll organize them, crush them, turn them into bricks. We'll put those bricks onto different trucks, drive them to the coast, sell them to the Chinese, and then load them onto cargo ships. And once the ships reach China, they'll take the bricks, give them to low-wage workers to organize them and turn them into new stuff. And when it's all said and done, for every dollar we spend on this process, we will earn $1.01, which is more money than when we started. Okay. And that's how recycling worked in America for over 25 years. But it wasn't just the US. According to NPR, 70% of the world's plastic waste was being sent to China. And China was getting a slight profit out of this, but that profit was being outweighed by all the other indirect costs that came with this recycling program. Because we never actually solved the problem of littering and handling the trash properly. We just gave the problem to a different country.
These sorting facilities in China would often illegally dump the portion of the plastics that even they couldn't profitably recover, creating an environmental problem that the government had to pay to clean up.
Martin Borque, I really hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, executive director of the Ecology Center in Berkeley, California, once put a tracker in a bale of waste sent to China just to see what would happen to it. And when it touched mainland and they got in contact with the locals that were near where the tracker was placed, they found that it was just littered. On top of that, remember how people will recycle anything, including hazardous materials? Well, it turns out that those materials were causing hazard to the Chinese workers who were sorting them. After a while, the Chinese government must have reasoned to itself, maybe destroying our country's lakes and giving people occasional anthrax poisoning isn't worth $17 of profit. So they banned the import of pretty much all plastic waste in 2018 with no warning. To which the waste management industry calmly responded, what am I supposed to do with all this? Once China stopped taking it, we didn't have many options on where to put it. Imagine you were taking your trash out for the week and the garbage man just said, no, and then drove away. You then have two options, create a pile in the backyard or set it on fire. And that's exactly what we've done for the past 8 years. I really tried to verify this stat, and I could be wrong, but as far as I know, when you recycle something, most of the time, it just ends up in a landfill or in an incinerator. Because there's just no money to do anything else with it. And I would love to sit here and say there is a solution and that they're working on something that's gonna work in the next few years. But as far as I know, right now, at this current moment, this is all recycling is. Almost every solution I read about when researching this video is either going to hurt the environment more or it's going to cost way too much money. Even when something says it's made of recycled plastics, I'm pretty sure in most cases it just ends up looking something like this. So you promise that when I put a plastic bottle in the bin, you turn it into another plastic bottle just like new? Absolutely. In fact, I have one right here. That is not the same thing. I'm doing the best I can! Downcycling is when a recycled product isn't as good quality as when it was first made. For example, a food-grade plastic that gets recycled is no longer good enough quality for food packaging, and so it becomes part of like a plastic bench or something. Okay, but I saw a TikTok of a mad scientist fellow who was turning plastic into fuel. Why can't they just do that? Technically, as far as I know, that process is called pyrolysis, and it is possible. Because like plastic is made from oil, so wouldn't you do some science stuff to maybe turn it back into oil? I don't get it, but it is scientifically possible. So why don't they do it? According to the TikTok comment section of that video, it's because the CEO of Exxon will personally 360
Praying for your safety. I'd hire some security. Nah,
no
deadass.
scope this guy if he ever goes to market. That's not why. Then why not? Money. Again, could you build a toilet? At scale, the process of pyrolysis costs way too much economically and environmentally. As far as doing it for plastics at least, it just doesn't make much sense. Besides that, the process of this and other forms of advanced recycling generates a lot of hazardous waste. According to the NRDC, they once observed that an advanced recycling plant, also known as a chemical recycling plant, created almost 500,000 pounds of hazardous waste in 2019 alone. In addition, these plants produce air pollution, which poses a health risk to nearby neighborhoods. Neighborhoods that tend to be made of low-income, non-white people. As a result, these neighborhoods lose even more of their value. And due to the health risks that come with being so close to one of these facilities, it turns these areas into what ProPublica described as sacrifice zones. And on top of that, a lot of these advanced recycling plants just end up burning the plastic. However, none of that will stop the plastics industry from saying they're doing it. Because again, it barely matters that it's not working. As long as people think it could, they're not gonna get mad at us.
Innovation in American plastics means reducing, reusing, and
manufacture.
So you recycle.
Well, yeah, we manufacture recycled plastic. It's how we stay competitive.
And it's better for the environment.
And it's better for business.
How?
It's the way of the future. The U.S. has to keep up.
First off, this ad was made by America's plastic makers, and on their website, they will tell you that they are part of the plastics division of the American Chemistry Council and their member companies, which include Chevron, Dow, Exxon, and Shell. The companies that make the oil that make the plastic. Secondly,
oh my God.
He never answered her question. Am I the only one that peeped that?
And it's better for the environment.
And it's better for business.
He didn't. He didn't.
How?
It's the way of the future.
I've seen this ad a billion times, and I've noticed that detail every single time. Like, that was a question she was asking, and he just ignored it and talked about the business of it. Am I insane? That's what just happened.
Now you're getting.
Recycling yesterday's plastic because it was made to be more.
It's not, though. It's made to be one thing, one time for 30 seconds, and then spend the next 1,000 years polluting a river in Taiwan. And I think all these ads and messaging and borderline propaganda just serves to confuse people on what's actually happening with their trash, i.e., the propaganda is working. Laura Liebrook, a manager of a recycling plant in Oregon, explained that when she tries to tell people that recycling doesn't work, they don't want to believe her. Because the truth is, we need recycling. Not because it fixes any problem, it's because it removes this guilt. It's kind of like when you get those ads for children's cancer hospitals and you can't skip it because you have to wait 5 seconds. So before you can, you try not to make eye contact with the sick child in the video. It's kind of like that. We don't want to be confronted with the fact that American consumption is disgusting. We need something to believe in. It's a reason to feel that we're not destroying the planet with our insatiable greed. It doesn't have to actually work. I just need to believe that I'm doing something
good
so I can sleep at night. If I just put the bottle in the blue bin, I don't have to be confronted with the fact that that bottle is going to sit somewhere for the next 700 years. If I don't have to look at it, it's almost as if it doesn't exist anymore. Don't take that from me.
Recycling, it's one of those things where not only does the public kind of depend on that emotionally to relinquish their, guilt about buying things, but it has been kept alive by the manufacturers.
Ultimately, though, any time we spend placing the blame solely on the individual is when the propaganda has fully accomplished its work. Yes, American consumption is killing us. But who sold the poison? Corporations are the ones that invested in plastic. Corporations are the ones that convinced Americans to buy more plastic than they could ever need. Corporations are the ones that blamed consumers for a littering problem that they created. Corporations are the ones that pushed and promoted a solution they knew would never work. And corporations are the ones that paint themselves as the heroes and innovators solving a crisis that they created while ultimately not coming up with any scalable solutions. All the while, creating more plastic. Lisa Ramsden of Greenpeace USA says the plastics industry intends to triple plastic production by 2050. The takeaway
Triple?
from this discussion isn't that we shouldn't be doing what we can. We should all still be reducing, reusing, and then when all else fails, recycling, because a bad solution is better than no solution. But the real takeaway is this: no matter what any company, ad campaign, children's media, catchy jingle, or industry group tries to tell you, this conversation isn't just solely about how much you love the planet. This whole conversation has always been about money. And although it technically exists, and I'm by no means an expert, I'm pretty sure recycling isn't real.
It's not.
Plastics take their rightful place in a world at peace.
Wow. Wow. Hold on. Nah, he cooked. He cooked. That was a good ass video. I ain't gonna lie. Convincing a whole generation that it's your fault that there's so much plastic and it's your responsibility is crazy.